This video turned out to be a lot longer than I anticipated, so I'm going to give you the recap up front. Today we talked about the difference between original XARILK Gen 3 sharpener and its newest production version. We talked about some issues that my viewers reported. We also covered the Y-Clamp that XARILK now produces. We talked about various sharpening plates. I also purchased this Ruxin Pro set that has 4 nickel-bound diamond plates and 4 resin-bound diamond plates. Today we need to unpack a few things, figuratively and literally, because this box just came directly from XARILK. They provided it for free to me because I emailed Johnny, the guy who runs at least the operations here in the US, and mentioned to him that several customers complained about the device. If you purchased the device earlier this year and this mast looks like this, you probably have nothing to worry about. The reason I reached out to Johnny, the company is super responsive. One of my viewers complained that his new device came looking a little different and the gimbal couldn't go much below where you see right now. He sent me some pictures via email. My email address is listed in my channel description. I reached out to Johnny and he decided to kindly provide me a unit for free. And that just shows you, like, all I said is I'm going to review and suggest some modifications or adjustments if necessary, and if not necessary, I'll let him know as well. And after that, he's like, all right, here's a freebie, go to town. Now, he does not control what comes my way because he just places an order through Amazon and whatever they pick off the shelf arrives. So let's open her up and see what's in there. So the mask comes pre-assembled. I believe that was the case before. I don't know why they didn't rename it into like Gen 3.1. This part, I call it the mast, the column has changed. The height looks to be roughly the same, but they lightened the construction. So it's kind of hollowed out or milled out right here. Looks like it's a milled piece of aluminum. I don't know if you can see on camera, but in the reflection I can see the milling marks. This here didn't change much. Same clamp. This adjusts. Oh, what is that? Aha, interesting. I had no issues with the teeth on this gear here. It's a mechanism that warm gear in the adjustment knob interacts with, but here it looks like they replaced it with steel, a piece of steel. Maybe more precise, more accurate. Feels about the same. Ooh, it's getting tight as I go. That adjusts the angle. To make it less tight, I would have to get in, if I recall correctly, with a T10 screw or T8 right into these two holes. We'll go through all this. Let's lock it down for now. And right now this is rock solid, very solid here. So how does it lock? This locks rock solid, and it actually feels quite snappy. See, this one doesn't have that snap into position. It kind of has to be pressed in. Whatever they did, and maybe it will wear out with age, but right now it just goes snap. That feels actually more advanced than the original one. I would definitely call it 3.1, guys. So this is getting a little tight here. It's a little tight throughout the rotation. Let's see. It's meshing okay, the gear teeth to the warm gear. But let's grab a tool. Here's T10. No, it's not T10. I use Hoto tools, Hoto multi-bit driver in all my videos. And the reason I like it is because this is S2 steel, carbon steel, and it's heat treated 58 to 60 HRC, which I verified with my Rockwell tester over there. So I'm gonna, oh man, I don't know if I can loosen it easily. Let's try. Okay, this one loosens up, no problem. I'll leave it where it was. This one, there you go. I had to put a little oomph into it, a little gumption. It's Loctite, obviously. Okay, now we're talking. Now it's a little loose, but I think it's because the bottom wasn't quite as tight as the top, so we'll adjust it here. Test it, adjust it some more. Now we're a little tight. Oh, this is tight. And you know, a company that makes hundreds of them a week, I mean, I think the quality control should still be there. And somebody should check this out. This is now snug, but not too bad right now. So I probably let it wear in a little bit or grease it. So let's look. This is the new gimbal. There was another complaint earlier in the days that sometimes this bearing doesn't rotate freely. This one has no issues whatsoever, but that turned out to be because of the over-tightened set screw that holds the bearing inside its housing. And at a glance, they look to be the same to me. First, I'm going to take the new gimbal and put it in the older apparatus here. And it's bottoming out on the top of the column, as it should. And that's where some of my viewers were concerned. And sure enough, it doesn't go all the way down to the top of the column. What I would like to know, is it really a problem? This is a SY tool plate that I highly recommend. I've been using that for at least 14 months. They're a little dirty, as you can see. I use it weekly. If that fits, see, I can adjust to that height. Ooh, thank goodness. I was really worried that they tuned it where the elevation starts at the thickness of the plates they provide, because their plates are a little thicker than others in the market. So I was worried that this will only go down to the thickness of this guy and it will be stuck right here. So I'm very relieved. I am very relieved that it can go to this thickness, right? I can use it and then I can drop it here and lock it, and I'm good to go. I am really enjoying using SY tool set, and I would be really upset if I couldn't use it with Gen 3 without modifying it first. This comes off of Wurkkos Professional Precision Adjust. It still fits into their plate holder. Here's the plate that came off of TS Prof Kadet. And let's see if that works here. No, it doesn't. So this is loose. So I'm curious what's causing it to stop before it goes all the way down to the thickness of these plates. Let me light it up. Okay, so it bottoms out on some kind of ledge. I hope you can see here. Let me bring it closer. Okay, I see it. Now I see it. Okay, so when they milled the blind hole, it's not exactly blind, so they broke into this lightning cutout, and you can see it right there. They didn't go any deeper. They stopped right there. Maybe for strength. I can't see no other reason for them to stop milling. You see where I'm pointing at, right? I hope so. I mean, okay, that might be better. So all they needed to do is go in another maybe 3 millimeters, and that would not be an issue. This plate, 165 thousandths, 4.2 millimeters, is too thin for this device without mods. SY tool plate, which is probably the most common, 202 thousandths, 5.1 millimeter, will work. And the XARILK plate, which is the thickest one we're looking at today, 280, 7.1 millimeter will obviously fit. As a former machinist, I can take an educated guess why they stopped 3 millimeters short of the depth on the original XARILK Gen 3. Judging by the tooling marks, it's not drilled, it's bored. And imagine boring into something solid and then hitting a pocket of air. It starts vibrating because your tool catches metal and loosens in a hole. Boom. Since we're on the topic of different plates, some of my viewers recommended me check out this Ruxin Pro. I paid, this is not a sample that they sent me, I paid another 40 bucks, so now I'm 80 bucks deep into aftermarket sharpening plates. And by the way, I have to compliment Roxson on this case. It's extremely convenient. I don't have to worry about my plates touching, knocking diamonds. It's really great to have that box. There are 8 in the set, and there's a space for one more. And here are the grits. I seriously appreciate, like, they're by far the best markings I've seen on any aftermarket plates or prime market. Like TS Prof puts the marking here, so that's 220, but when it's in the holder, the rod covers it up, so I had to write on the plate itself with a Sharpie what it is. These guys have marked theirs in the back, so no matter which way you stick it in the box, you will see that it's 200. And they have it at least one place on the front where you can see it when it's installed in the plate holder. I really appreciate small details like that because I'm an engineer and I'm a Virgo, and that's important to me. Yeah, guys, in case you haven't heard, I was born on August 24, which is the National Knife Day. I'm pretty sure that my Ukrainian mother didn't know that in the United States it's going to be a knife day, but it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess, or whatever the allegory is. Sorry, I digress. Anyway, I don't have enough experience with finer grits like this on the plate to know if it's okay to jump from 3,000 to 5,000. Somebody may want to comment on that and make recommendation. But I do know that jumping from 400 to 800 to 1,200 to 3,000 is a little bit too wide of a step. So since I'm not hardly ever using 200, I'm going to pull it out of the set. I'm going to put 400 here. Then I'm going to add 600 from SY tool set. Let's turn them all the same way. And I'm going to move 800 here and throw my 1,000 from SY tools. And now I have a much better step. And as far as these go, they're truly finishing honing plates. They're not supposed to be used for material removal. They remove very, very minimal amount of material. So I think going from 400 to 600 to 800 to 1,000 to 1,200 is going to get me where I need to be. Now, another thing they provided in this box, I just want to show you because I didn't even notice it. There's a bottle, and it's a spray bottle for emulsions, I guess. And again, I'm not familiar with this style sharpening. I'll be learning as we go and relying on people who use something like that to explain in the comments why they were using it and what is it used for and what fluid should I fill it with. It latches very securely here. That's why I didn't even notice in the beginning. This is awesome, guys. I tried one sharpening with this, and it's not ready for prime time. Maybe in the next video. As I was continuing to unpack the new XARILK, I noticed they changed the profile of the clamp. They added 2 additional bevels. So on this guy, you can see that it's just one straight line. The bevel goes from here, actually from here all the way to here. And this part is quite thick, which precludes you from sharpening narrower blades. What exactly do I mean by this? If you're sharpening a wide blade and you're clamping it right here, you have plenty of room for your plate to clear the edges of these clamps. But if you end up with a slim, narrow blade. I have Lion Steel Opera here. That's pretty narrow. So if I clamp it in this clamp, where it's held securely, I may not have enough room to clear the lip here, and you can see sometimes it ends up striking aluminum. I'm not worried about sort of damaging aluminum here. I'm more worried when you hit it, your plate deviates and can leave a mark on the cutting edge. So I don't like that. What they did here, and I will test it out when I do a sharpening video, they added, so you got, okay, so this is flat now. That's better for robustness, for toughness. The screw will not bend it, because that can happen too. And then they have this bevel, then a secondary bevel, and a tertiary bevel at the tip. So I think this is going to be a huge improvement. Again, I wish they called it XARILK Gen 3.1, something like that. That'd be totally appropriate, and I would totally be on board with that, like this. Call it G3.1. What's interesting by doing this, they totally eliminated the need to purchase their own Y-Clamp, which they added by popular demand. For some reason, there is an opinion out there that the blade has to be centered against the mast, against where the gimbal is, to do a good sharpening. You absolutely don't need to center the blade. You can sharpen your blade here, you can sharpen it here, you can bring it all the way out here. As long as your blade has a long straight portion where this straight section is in relation to the center of the sharpening, doesn't matter. Watch Outdoors 55 video on this topic. He showed a really good example and explained it much clearer than I could possibly do. So the trick is, when you get to the belly, either the angle will change, or you're going to have to turn the knife so that the belly is oriented toward the center of the arm's rotation. So again, I explained it in at least one video, and I'll explain it again in the next one. But it's actually better when you have a pronounced belly like this to clamp the knife all the way out there, like maybe here. So the distance increase from here to where the belly starts doesn't matter. You're going to get the same angle. But when the belly starts, you see this line is approaching the center of rotation of the gimbal, and that changes the angle. So if you have it all the way out there, as this distance decreasing, this distance is increasing. So you are much better off doing it that way, clamping it all the way out here. Let me show you. On this sharpener, it would look like this, right? And you will get much more, you will never get absolutely identical a secondary bevel angle between here and here. It's just not in the star. So you need a totally different device. I had KetiPed or KP on my channel that I showed in a couple of videos already. But that device is more expensive, and not a lot of people really care about it all that much, because all it buys you is this width of the secondary bevel remains the same all the way through sharpening. To some people it's important, to, I would say, to 80–90% of people it is not. But if you're sharpening a lot of very narrow blades, you might still need it. So my recommendation to XARILK is to redesign this device. These washers weren't here when I got it. I had to add them because I had to return one of their Y-clamps after securing the blade in. And to remind everybody, I use a torque driver, and I set it at 25 inch-pounds. That is not a lot, but that's all you need, and it's appropriate for this size screw. And it's sufficient to tighten any blade, even like polished blades. Here, this clamp has a weak spot. Johnny, if you're watching, it's right here. So the one I returned, when you're clamping down, the force, the reaction force on this top clamp can bow this piece here like so. So it'll bend this way. And then you will never, ever get a consistent, when you flip the knife over, your angle will not be consistent. So your one side will be 1.5 to 2 degrees off. At least it was on the device I had. Another thing, they used rivets here, and that means if you forget to use the set screw that pre-adjusts the width of the jaw opening or lips opening, if you forget to engage it all the way to this channel, let me see if you can see it. See how there's a channel and the screw has a rounded end. When you get it out of the box, most likely it'll have the shorter screw there. That's for kitchen knives. That is for the kitchen knives that are 2 millimeters and under in thickness. Anything more than 2 millimeters, what's 2 millimeters in inches? Come on, quickly. 330 seconds. Most blades on pocket knives are 1/10 of an inch or 2.5 millimeters thick. So for them, you need to use the longer screw. Because if you don't, not only will you potentially bend this thin piece, but also these rivets, they don't hold up. They're not super heavy duty. So you don't want to put a lot of pressure on these rivets. One of them almost certainly will pop. I used these washers. I'll specify in the description what they are. You can go with wider washers, but I wanted to have perpendicularity, so I am letting the washer slide. So each washer has like a rounded side and a sharp side, so sharp side up, so that can freely arrange itself. And you can see that I'm letting it right on top of this edge or ledge and into this channel a little bit. I think it was actually originally designed that way, but maybe found unnecessary. But I assure you, if you tighten it to the appropriate 25 inch-pounds of torque, especially you forced to do one screw at a time, that puts a lot of pressure on this thinner piece. Now, if you look at the TS Prof Y-Clamp, it's thick here, but it presents its own problem. Because it's so thick, now you can't sharpen narrow blades in it. This guy lets you get on a Swiss Army knife, maybe not on the small blade on a Swiss Army knife, but the regular blade on a Swiss Army knife, no problem. It has very thin metal here and like a double bevel. So that's what this device is primarily for.
And so to wrap it all up, as you can see, the device is working. These clamps provide enough clearance between the sharpening plate and the edge of the clamp. I'm not scraping aluminum. I'm getting good angle, good burr on the Swiss Army knife. That is a nice snappy clamp. As you can see, I have about 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters of the blade protruding from the clamp. The angle is set to 16-17 degrees, and I'm not scraping any aluminum off the edge of the clamp. My conclusions are the XARILK Gen 3.1 is good to go. You don't need to buy a Y-Clamp. Investing into Ruxin Pro plate set is a much better investment, especially if your goal is a mirror polished edge.